What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the second installment of What If Deku Had Gohan's Potential. If you guys go on to enjoy this part and you guys actually want to get early access to the next part, then make sure that you guys remember that you can. By joining the members program, you can get access to the next part before it even comes out. That being said, enjoy the video.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
We continue our story exactly where we left off yesterday. I mean, Izuku's pretty much been training in the planet of the Kais for what? Let's just pick off with, say, 7 months. Let's say Izuku's been training with the Kais for about 7 months. At this current point in time, Izuku has pretty much learned about Super Saiyan 2 and has actually learned to access it, just due to the fact that transforming in the Universe 6 Saiyan biology, even though Izuku is not exactly a real Saiyan, since he was born in Universe 6, the rules kind of apply to him. So basically what I'm gonna have happen is Izuku essentially goes on to master Super Saiyan 2 over these next 7 months. And with these next 7 months, Izuku was able to train with that said sword that I had mentioned previously. Not to mention, Izuku was actually able to essentially end up meeting the Great Elder, like the one that ends up unlocking Gohan's potential in Universe 7. Pretty much something like that, except the Universe 6 parallel of that, right? Now, obviously the Kai ends up doing the unlocking ritual for the potential for Izuku, and this would lead Izuku to actually lose the ability to transform into a Saiyan or Super Saiyan 2. Essentially, all that Izuku is going to be having access to now is pretty much just going to be Mystic form. And it's not going to be Beast Gohan quite yet, or Beast Deku in this sense, because, he's still not at that level quite yet. But Izuku is going to pretty much begin to get very, very powerful very, very quickly now from the story. Izuku's ki mastery would have pretty much gone through the roofs, and Izuku also knows a Kai technique known as the Kai Kai, where he basically is able to just simply teleport all over the place, similar to the instant transmission technique that Goku would have learned in Yardrat. So basically, to summarize everything up that Izuku would have learned, is basically he became about as strong as Gohan would be, let's say, on during the Cell Saga, during the Majin Buu Saga, because if he's gonna have Gohan's potential, I can't have Deku just be held back just due to the fact that the MHA universe is pretty weak. It's gonna be a Deku goes around pretty much slaughtering every single villains in this series, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But basically what's gonna be happening here is I essentially picture Izuku having somewhat comparable power levels to what Gohan would have by the Buu Saga, just due to the fact that he's been training and he's been talking to the Kais under Supreme Kai supervision, and currently it's about a couple of months off from when Champa would wake up and probably go visit the Kais, to see what's going on, and then ultimately meet Izuku. But since that point still hasn't arrived yet, Izuku's basically just there, doing his best to try to train, and essentially about 3 more months would go by when suddenly Izuku and his mother would finally be teleported back to Earth to stay permanently this time, right? Because obviously Inko comes every now and then, but Izuku's mainly the one who gets Kai-Kai'd from Earth back to the Kaioshin realm, right? And that's just a cycle that would repeat itself over the 10 months. So instead of Izuku cleaning up Dagoma Beach, we would have another character like, let's say, who in Class 1A would be a good fit? Let's give One For All to some random character and say that this kid was a lot like All Might when he was growing up. So he has One For All, and yeah. Because why not, right? So the inspiration came from Izuku telling him, maybe give it to a quirkless kid. So it went to a quirkless kid, meaning that they'll be able to actually get the full usage out of One For All, which, that's a bonus. But overall, Izuku is able to essentially just go to the UA entrance exam and pretty much ace it. I mean, when it comes to the written portion, Izuku is a very intelligent individual, so I don't really see him struggling too much there. Let's just highball him and say that he gets like a high B or a low C, and that's going to be the score that he gets for the entrance exam. And when it comes to, well, what happens after that, which is pretty much the robot portion, I don't really think I need to be telling you guys too much about what would go down. I mean, it's Izuku with Gohan's potential. You put two and two together and you pretty much get Izuku going through this area, flying, blasting ki all over the place, and pretty much using abilities to the point where if to everybody else who's watching, it literally just looks like Gohan is flying around the place with green hair floating up and like a mystic like aura. People begin to question like where he got this power from, and Izuku just says, you know, he's been training and that's just what his quirk works like. I mean, he's not really responsible for having his power take this much after the Dragon Ball universe, but this is just what it is. Obviously, it doesn't tell them that they're actually living in said parallel universe to the actual original canon story because, you know, I don't think anyone's ready for that quite yet. But Izuku essentially ends up passing the test overall, and eventually he would end up getting his acceptance letter following about 1 week later. The next Monday would finally roll around and Izuku would finally find himself in the classroom, when suddenly, Aizawa goes on to pretty much tell everybody to report outside. Bakugo looks to Deku. As they're in the changing room, you know, he takes off his shirt, he looks at him and asks him how much stronger he's gotten over the last 10 months, saying that he'd been pretty much MIA for the last couple of, you know, months, that they should have probably trained together. Izuku tells Bakugo that he's going to be shocked by the power he's going to display when he finally begins using it. And Bakugo says, I don't doubt it, dude. You were already more than powerful enough to become a hero before. I'm just excited to see how much stronger you could have gotten in this time. Izuku looks to Bakugo and says, oh, trust me, a lot stronger. Now, what goes on to happen here is we basically get this moment where Izuku is the one who actually has the ball thrown to him. You know, he catches it and he asks what he's supposed to be doing with this. Aizawa looks back at him and is like, I want you to throw it as far as you can, alright? Don't hold back on me. Izuku looks to Aizawa, pretty much nods, and then looks up at the sky before, you know, closing his eyes and just tossing it without even transforming. I mean, the dude just literally throws it up into the air and it causes a sonic boom as the ball just goes into outer space, and Aizawa would show that it marked infinity because it went into space and it just began floating forever, never landing. So technically that is infinity. Following this, they then get into the other tests that were pretty much just the 50-meter dash, the grip strength test, the side-to-side jumps, the other, you know, things that they would have obviously done, the standing long jump. We have the punching machine, which they actually added this time, that Deku shatters, because I don't know, I just really wanted to have that parallel there. So, you know, the punching machine is there, Izuku shatters it with one punch, and everybody is just shocked at how Izuku's performing. I mean, this dude is literally putting up One Punch Man levels performance on crack, because the dude is flying at the long jump, he's using his super speed, or not even super speed, but just basic human speed that he uses without even going into his mystic form to complete and absolutely shatter every single record that All Might would have previously had. I mean, Izuku's base form is now at such a level that it's just impossible for anybody on Earth to even catch up to Izuku, much less catch him off guard, because his perception is just so sped up by how fast Izuku can move. His battle speed is incredible. It's beyond the level of any Earthling that currently exists at the moment, and seeing as one of the only other individuals in the universe that actually has ki is lying dormant in some wasted planet somewhere, there's nobody whatsoever to stand up to Deku. So basically, what ends up happening is Izuku goes on to ace the thing, right? There's no reason for Izuku to fail. And eventually, the following day, he finds himself stuck in class in between Mineta and Kaminari, who are both pretty much just like, so Izuku, what's your quirk like? Like, how does your quirk work like that? Like, your powers, they're incredible. You can shoot ki blasts? And, you know, Izuku just looks at them and he's like, yeah, like, it's pretty strange. I really don't know what my power is called. But, you know, Mineta goes, well, you can use like anime powers, so you could call it like Toon Force or something like that. Izuku looks to Mineta and is like, dude, that's for cartoons. Mineta's like, oh right, manga force? And Izuku hears that and is just like, oh, how about I just call it ki? Mineta looks at him and goes, "Oh, that's a cool name too. You know, you could just call your quirk Ki." And then he asks him why he's never had a quirk. Izuku goes on to explain that when he was growing up, he had such a hard time controlling it that he didn't even know he had a quirk until eventually he met his master and he began training him and finally being able to control it in a very competent manner, and that before he was kind of just flaring his strength all over the place, saying that now that he's finally had some, you know, what's the word? Wow, that snuck up on me. But anyways, he basically says that once he had some guidance, he was finally able to reach his untapped potential, which is quite literally considering the fact that he has the mystic form that literally is just a potential, like, bringing form that gives people their one and only true potential, whatever it is that they have, right? So eventually the day would come when Izuku has to come back to class, and when he's in class, he would essentially just be waiting for what to do. The day was a pretty boring one, so nothing was really going on, and suddenly All Might just busts into the classroom like, "I am here," coming into the room like a normal person. Izuku looks to All Might and immediately gets excited to see him once again, and then All Might reveals the costumes and tells them that they're going to be getting into 2v2 battles, heroes versus villains. Izuku is actually teamed up with Bakugo, and their opponents are actually Mineta and Momo. So when they both heard that, they immediately just thought, well, that's going to be easy. But this time around, Izuku's going to be a villain, right? So Izuku's going to be a villain. Bakugo is as well. And, you know, they're both at the bomb room. They're going to just be chilling, waiting for Momo and Mineta to come. Mineta would be terrified, being like, "I don't want to fight against Izuku. Like, please, no." All Might just tells Mineta, like, "Don't worry, Izuku will be holding back." That they've already discussed that with him, saying that, you know, Izuku won't just be... Oh, God. Wow, this is not okay. I keep yawning. I'm so sorry, guys. But he would basically tell Mineta that Izuku's not just going to be flaring his power all over the place. That Izuku's going to be using his strengths controlled in a positive manner. That way nobody gets seriously injured. Mineta looks at All Might and goes, "Seriously injured? So what you're saying is I'm going to get injured either way, but I'm not going to get seriously injured." And All Might goes, "Precisely, young man." Suddenly Mineta pretty much passes out, and we basically have Mineta be replaced with All Might, who joins Momo, and they're both going to be on the hero team. All Might goes on to tell the students that, you know, to try their best and to try to be the best villains they could be, but not to be too disheartened if they lose. Bakugo and Deku both look at each other, laugh, knowing that Izuku himself could probably take on All Might, and Izuku just says, "I'll flatter All Might, I guess." He proceeds to then think about what an honor this is going to be, because he's going to be fighting his childhood idol. I mean, it's incredible that he gets a chance to fight against All Might. Like, it's rare. It's something he never thought would be possible. And basically what ends up happening following this little situation is essentially... how do I put this? Essentially, All Might comes busting in, right? He smashes a hole through the door and he immediately looks towards the bomb before rushing towards it as Bakugo comes flying in and shoots an explosion. All Might doesn't care. He catches Bakugo with one arm and throws him between the building. And then suddenly Deku comes in and pretty much ends up coming behind All Might before he was able to pretty much grab the bomb, grab him by the leg and swing him out of the building. As Izuku looks to Bakugo and tells him to make sure that Momo doesn't touch the bomb. Bakugo says he got it, and suddenly he would begin flaring explosions as he simply stays in the bomb room and waits for Momo to essentially begin trying something. She doesn't actually end up trying something, smart choice, because Bakugo was there and she knows she was going to get absolutely folded. I mean, she tries it, but she gets captured in the capture tape relatively easily, and Izuku's just outside facing All Might, just thinking to himself how much of an honor this is going to be, as All Might cracks his knuckles and says, "Well, seems to me like I won't actually need these restraints." He takes off these 500-pound weight things that he has on each arm and leg and immediately begins to stretch as he looks at Izuku and says, "Your move, kid." But before we can actually get into that, first, we have to get into the sponsor of today's video, which is actually going to be Some Slight Clothing and Fandom. Now, obviously, two sponsors, kind of weird. The first sponsor is for anime shorts and anime apparel, in case you guys are looking for some dope comfy shorts. They're made out of mesh. They have tons of anime designs. I'm going to pop some up on screen. And the other one is essentially fandom, which you guys can go to by clicking on the other link down below in my description, and it will take you guys to their My Hero page or their other page that they sell normal merch. They specialize in selling shirts, hoodies, and overall jean jackets and other designs such as that. So if you guys were to do your boy a big favor and click on their website and go browse the things that they have to offer, I would truly appreciate it, seeing as any purchases will actually greatly help the channel and they'll help you guys out, seeing as you guys are actually going to be getting something out of it and not just throwing money away. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, your boy only makes like $2 off each purchase, but it's like, it helps a little bit. Anything really helps, right? But yeah, that said, let's get back into the what if. So obviously, now we end up getting to the segment of the video where Izuku's pretty much trying to throw hands with All Might, right? And All Might looks back at Izuku and says, well, young man, you certainly have come a long way from the last time I saw you. Izuku stretches and says, honestly, All Might, to me, it seems like you haven't actually come much of a long way. If anything, it seems like you've gotten a bit weaker, as a smile creeps up on Izuku's face and he closes his eyes and opens them, snapping into his mystic form as he suddenly appears behind All Might, and All Might turns around in shock as Deku punches All Might straight through 4 buildings, and All Might just gets up dizzy, like he's like, what? He looks up and Izuku's standing right in front of him, looking him dead in the eyes as Izuku says, night night, All Might, as he then goes in to throw a punch, but he stops it halfway and says, you really think I would do that to you, All Might? I've loved you since I was a kid. I have adored you for years. I could never do that to the symbol of peace or my hero.